Welcome to the Trying to Be Better podcast with Joel and Steve.
There it is. It's all happening.
We are doing it. Hey, everybody. We're doing it. We're going to do it.
Let's
do this. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Trying to Be Better podcast with Joel and Steve. My name is Joel.
Hi, Joel. I'm Steve. You know
Hi,
that
Steve.
already.
I'm Joel. I'm a little groggy, and I admitted that right at the...
Well, I was up way past my bedtime last night. We played a gig in Omaha.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I'm
that?
normally in bed, but I turned into a pumpkin at 10 o'clock and I got home at 2, you know,
Woo!
So it was fun. That was great.
Yeah. What you guys played O'Leavers? Is that correct?
Yeah, we played O'Leavers, and it was a birthday party for one of our fans. Like there's this contingent of people that comes down to basically all of our shows. And it was his 50th birthday party, and his wife hired us to play like a surprise party for him.
Ooh.
Yeah, it was great, man. We got there, and I think it was his son's band was like playing the show that night. And so he was kind of like his friends were outside when we got there, and they're like, he has no idea, and he's kind of pissed. he thought his wife was like, you know, oh cool, I get to see my son's band for the 1,000th time on my birthday, on my 50th birthday, you know.
Yeah,
so
right,
right. And then when we walked in, he was like, no. It was great, man. I've never seen. He was like a kid in a candy store all night long. It was really great.
You were the exotic dancer jumping out of the cake.
That's exactly right, and happy to do it. Yeah,
yeah, hell yeah,
great, man. It was a lot of fun, and I'd never been to O'Leavers. Great place. I mean, it's really tight, but it's fun. You know, it's got a great vibe, and it's just cool.
Nice.
So yeah, it was good.
Well,
I was tired, Joel.
Well, my story is not nearly as cool, but I actually did some socializing yesterday.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I went bowling.
Oh, and yeah, I saw that. How was it?
And then
I
went out to eat and went to the Pho Factory. I had a whole afternoon into the early evening of social activity.
Was it fun? Was it good to be around humans?
It was great.
Okay.
And I got to play Star Wars pinball. What more do you want? But the thing that kept us up was we finished, and I am not ashamed to admit this. We finished the second season of the show Cheer on Netflix. Have you watched this? Cheer. It's about this small community college cheer program in Texas. Anyway, riveting documentary. I like you don't have to give a shit about cheerleading or college cheerleading, but the way these filmmakers tell this story is unbelievable.
So it's a documentary. It's not like a comedy.
It's a docuseries. Yeah. It's
okay.
Is
it age appropriate? Like, can my kids watch it?
Yeah.
Okay.
In the second
I don't know, it's college kids.
Well, yeah, there's some curse words, but in the second season, they cover one of the folks from the first team or the first season got into a bit of some trouble in abuse. He was abusive and predatory.
Uh-huh.
And so that gets a little hairy, but it's fantastic and well made. So that I was up late, and then I popped a melatonin a little too late, so I'm a little groggy this morning.
Cool.
Yeah.
I think there used to be a show on KZUM. How's that for a slick segue?
Wow.
I'd rather be groggy in the morning. As a guy that it's been a while. But yeah, he just talked about like that was his premise is like, I don't drink coffee, so this is what you get in the morning.
Oh, wow. That sounds great. Great segue. So
thank you.
the delightful laughter that you may be hearing in the background is the amazing Kerry Semrad. Kerry has graciously agreed to give up a little bit of her Sunday morning to talk to these two ding dongs. So we're really grateful that you're here, Kerry. I've known you for quite a while, and you know, your husband Mike was on the podcast, but you two are kind of a force of nature in the Lincoln community, and I've always just enjoyed being around you as a person, as an energy, and as an artist. And now you are a community leader, and so we're really lucky to get to have you on our podcast. So everybody, welcome Kerry Semrad to the podcast.
Morning, Kerry.
Thank you. Good morning. I don't know how I follow that up.
I'm trying to place, like, when I first crossed paths with you, it would have been probably around the same time I met Mike, because you guys were already kind of connected by that point. So it was UNL days, right?
Yeah, Mike and I actually met first class, first day of college.
Oh my God.
Monday, off and running.
Welcome to college.
I know.
Was it just like you looked at each other and just started talking and we're like, well, we're probably going to be together for a while?
Well, it's funny enough. It was in a theater class because we both went to UNL theater, and we were sitting in a circle, as you do in theater classes, on the floor, talking about yourself at the beginning of the class. And we were going around in the circle, and I had already said who I was. And we get around to Mike, and he said who he was. I was just like looking at him, and he had this weird T-shirt on that had two aliens in a sexual position on it. But I couldn't figure out what it was. And I was like staring at his T-shirt going, what is that on there? I didn't realize that I was staring so hard, because when I figured it out, I looked up at him and he was looking at me, and he like gave me this like wink.
It's like, you're it. All right.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
But we were friends for a long time before we started dating, but we were pretty much connected at the hip from day one. Yeah. And Joel, I think I met you in like 2000 or 1999 or something like that.
Yeah, because right when I transferred from Wesleyan to UNL, I kind of got sucked into the whole crew over there. So it was like Abby and James and all of Mike and Brian and all those folks. So yeah,
good group.
Yeah. So go ahead, Steve.
I was going to say, just the couple of times I've seen you play with Mike and the Bottle Tops, like you guys have this easy camaraderie. There's like just this energy between you guys, at least on stage. And from what I've seen from Mike's Saturday morning posts on Instagram at home, but like just this very easy kind of playful energy, which is just a delight to watch. And
oh, thanks.
Yeah, it's just a lot of fun, really.
He's a nut. He's the best person I know.
No, that's good.
I'm sure he would say the same about you. So that's the magic right there.
So are you like a Nebraska person, Kerry?
I went to high school in Kearney, but before that I lived in Chicago. So after I graduated college, we moved back to Chicago. Mike and I did. I drugged him back there, kicking and screaming, I guess is probably more appropriate. And we lived there for 10 years, had 2 kids, got married, and then he drugged me back here kicking and screaming. So, and I'm happy to be back. I still have a lot of family in Chicago, and it's very much a home base for me, but Lincoln and Nebraska definitely is the other 50% of that time. So
sure.
That's cool. I guess I didn't know that. I didn't know that you were kind of born and raised in Chicago, and that makes a lot of sense now that there was that connection. So when you came to Lincoln in high school, is that what you said?
I moved to Kearney.
You moved from Chicago to Kearney?
Junior high. Yep.
Whoa.
I lived in a suburb, so it wasn't necessarily an urban environment, and except for I had exposure to that, and
sure.
But I was
suburbs of Chicago is still way different than Kearney.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. But I was 12. And so I wasn't driving around and getting into trouble on my own and exploring by myself and doing that kind of thing. So moving into that smaller community was, it was good. It afforded me a lot of opportunity to just kind of live out dreams. And I sort of feel that way. I do feel that way about Lincoln too. Just the lack of competition from having so many people in such a small space can be polarizing, and it can be stifling for creative expression. And so when you're in an environment where there is a lot of opportunity to kind of get in a play or be on the sports team, because there isn't a ton of competition, you really find out what you love and what you want to do. And
I think that's a fascinating perspective, though, because I think the narrative is those bigger areas, those, larger cities, you think that's the place that has all of those opportunities. But from your perspective, it was like, no, the smaller pond afforded you more freedom.
Absolutely. I mean, you don't necessarily need a lot of money, or you just need some time and you need a drive to put a project together.
Yeah.
And if you're in a larger community, there's a lot of people like you doing the same thing. And so just trying to get people to even come to your show or, you know, take in what you're putting out there can be frustrating in itself. But also too, when you get into a larger community like Chicago and you have so many people who are so wonderful at what they do, then that's where the competitive drive comes in, you know, and some people really excel in that and some people don't so much. So I don't know. I guess I always, if you're talking about like small community versus large community, there's a lot about Chicago that I miss so much, just the difference in people and everything that you can take in. You have everything that you could possibly ever want to explore. But then when you go to a smaller community, I think of places that I've been like Ord and even Kearney that prioritize art in their communities and it's available for everybody to participate in. I think there's a real value in that. Yeah. That just kind of gets missed sometimes in larger communities. So
I love the Ord drop. I went to high school there, and I was just back there, like, you know, I don't know, it was the fall. We were on our way out to South Dakota for some hiking in the Black Hills, and I mean, that little community is so great. The theater they've converted into performance.
Your theater is stuffed with corn husks. I know, you guys. Like that is how it is insulated, and it's incredible. And they have an amazing brewery there, Scratchtown guys.
Yeah,
and Mike, one of the Scratchtown guys, or actually Caleb, went to high school with me in Kearney. So there you go.
Very cool. Yeah, I walked around. I'm like, you know, I haven't been back to Ord in a long time. It's a great little, you know, I like it here. You know, I have fond memories of that place, and I'm glad to know it's still thriving. So what was it for you in high school? Like, what was the thing? Was it theater? Was it music? Or was it kind of that small town thing where you did everything you could do?
I was in theater. That was my big thing. I also did speech and debate.
Yeah.
And that was the big stuff for me. I also did student government, and I had a really great pack of friends that we just tore it up all over the place. Got into a little trouble, not too much, you know, the appropriate amount,
just the right amount.
Yeah. And, you know, some relationships that are still very strong for me, still great relationships that I have. And it was a really nice place to be during that age for sure.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. So then when high school was over, you're like, I want to be a theater major. Is that what your major was? Is that what you went to study? Cool.
Yeah. Yeah. I found out very quickly though, that the prospect of having to make that a living was not attractive to me at all. Yeah. I'm not a competitive person. I'm very much in the vein or in the place of, you know, we all do better when everybody's doing better, not audition. I got the part, you didn't.
Yeah.
And I did not do good being in a group of people that did not think in that same way as I did. And so I just didn't enjoy it at all. Teachers were great. You know, my colleagues were great. My peers, but it just wasn't for me. And it took me a long time to figure that out because I had been in theater since I was a kid. Right. I started doing like community and regional theater in Chicago when I was younger. So being okay with giving up that dream took me a long time to get there. And it was depressing for me for a long time.
There had to have been like a grief process there.
Yeah, absolutely.
But that's cool though, that you were able to have that perspective and just say, you know, after having had this experience, I love it, but it doesn't really fit with how I want to live my life. I mean, that's one of those alpha level decisions.
Well, yeah, I mean, I don't know how I got through that with still having a lot of self-confidence to move on to something else. I mean, it was difficult. And so I always tell people, you know, be honest with yourself. You have to be honest with yourself if something's working and bringing you joy. If it's not, then you don't have to live your life doing something just because you always thought that that's what you should be doing.
Or what people said you should be doing.
Yeah.
I've had a similar experience, even though I'm still working in the theater, when I sort of like embraced that I really wanted to teach, because I wanted to teach, but I also I felt called to that, you know, like I wanted the stability, you know, I wanted the reality of being in Los Angeles saying, do I want to do this now that I'm engaged and married? Do I want to leave grad school and just schlep around and maybe make money to, like the reality of that was tough. And I've seen people, and we both know the same folks that have struggled in and out, and God bless them. But at the same time, it was like, that was not for me. And and I'll never forget Kirsten saying, like, we had a really intense conversation, and she was like, Joel, fuck your dreams. Like, what do you want? Like, fuck that idea of, getting this thing that you think you're supposed to have. What is it that you really, what do you really desire? What do you want? And that's hard. That's not as enlightening as it sounds. It's really hard to like step out of that and step towards something else.
Well, and there's so much, and being a mother, I always tell both of my kids, the whole, you can do whatever you want. You can be the strong person you want to be, yada, yada, yada. But then I really try to pull back from asking them what they want to be when they grow up.
Yeah.
Because how are they supposed to know?
Right.
For the love of God, how are they supposed to know at ages 14 or 11 what they want to be when they grow up? And that's, I think, the conversation when I was a kid, being a Gen Xer or whatever, or even before that, what you want to be when you grow up was something that you were constantly asked all through school, and everything. And those dreams are awesome to have, but you change so much, and you should, from childhood to adulthood. So why wouldn't you pivot on that dream if it's something that you just don't find attainable or joy in?
Yeah, I just had this kind of conversation with this. I teach this sort of interdisciplinary class, and I basically went down that rabbit hole with juniors. These are juniors in college, and I'm saying, like, what do you want to be? Or not what do you want to be, but I was like, I had them all do what I call a personal manifesto. And I call them all comrades too, because I hope somebody's just going to report me as a communist. But they were like, it was hard for that, even at that age group, even at that level. They've kind of completed most of their major. They're still kind of attached to this idea of what I'm studying and what my career is, who I am, what my identity is, and that's conditioning,
And how old are these kids? 21?
20, 21. Yeah.
I was a mess when I was 21.
Same. I think you saw me as a 20-year-old mess, Kerry. I was a 20-year-old mess.
You had some good hair, though. You still have good hair. Curly hair. It's all good.
Thank you.
It's all good. We're supposed
Flattery will get you everywhere.
We're supposed to be a mess when we're 21.
That's not the message I got growing up.
No, I know.
That is not the message I got growing up.
Yeah.
I know. But I feel stronger and centered and happier in my life now than I ever have when I was young.
Right.
And I look back at pictures of myself, and I have always had a big smile on my face. That's just my personality. And I'm an optimistic, positive person. And I still am that way. And maybe that's what got me through, is that I knew that I would be okay. I knew I'd be fine. And I didn't know it would leave me here where I am now, but I'm 43, and I feel like I've come to a place that I can just go, okay, we're good. Everything's good. I love this. Yeah.
That's a nice feeling.
It's so
priceless. Like I'm turned 50 this year, and like, it's fairly recently that I feel kind of the same way. I'm like, I'm pretty pleased with how things are with me and the world, like, we're good. It's nice. It took a long time to get here.
Right. And the fact that you're supposed to know what the fact that you're supposed to be there and know what you're supposed to be going for in your 20s through college is always something I think about. I'm like, I had no idea. None whatsoever.
And I kind of, that timeline tracks. I mean, I just turned 41. And when I was 21, I made huge shifts and all that stuff. So it's like, you have to live a whole nother lifetime to get to that. You know what I mean? But at the age of 20, the pressure is on, and I could go down the rabbit hole of internalized capitalism, but I won't. It's a little too early for that. But that's the deal, is that we have this idea that you need to decide where you fit in and like what you're going to produce in order to fit into the world. And you need to be okay with that and have that all ironed out right now. And it's like, the reality is you've got a whole nother you've got to double that age number to get to that, like
or just give yourself some time to do it.
Yeah. Right.
Be gentle with yourself and understand that you need to figure it out.
Yeah.
That's not a message I think that's really, taught is just be gentle with yourself. Give yourself some time. Give your spirit some space to figure out what it wants to be. Like no, go.
Yeah. And the buzz phrase in the last 10 years, I feel like has been self-care, 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 self-care. And I feel like that's a huge part of that is just allowing yourself space to think and vision and dream and all of that stuff. And that for me is like part of my self-care routine is, I'm not even kidding you guys. So I love my job. I love it. And it's wonderful, but it can be stressful and it's a lot and it's very forward facing. So I'm in front of a lot of people constantly and I'm an extrovert, but I'm also very much like an introvert too. I have both dual personalities, right? And I get home on Friday night sometime and I sit in my library in the dark and just sit there.
That's nice.
Nice. That's awesome.
In the quiet. But that's what I mean. Like, that's my time for me to kind of decompress, think about all the things that I want to do, and think about all the things that I accomplished and how happy I am. I got those done. And that's just part of my self-care routine. And I don't think when you're younger, you necessarily allow yourself or feel comfortable even doing that. So
I can completely agree with that. It's only been in the last few years out of what felt like what felt like an anxiety gun to my head. It was like, you need to stop. You need to take time to clear your head or at least deal with your head. And, the meditation and spiritual practice was like, people have been telling you this for years, dude, but you better start doing this. And like, that's what I hear in you saying. And like, I was thinking about this the other day, is that, I love my job too. But it also is very stressful. And I'm also, trying to do a bunch of stuff there. But I got home the other day and I was like, it dawned on me. And I would think I was talking to Kirsten. I was like, they're not paying me to worry about this right now. They're not paying me to worry about my job when I'm not doing it.
Right.
And it was like, I need to practice that, like I need to find time to really enjoy the days off and really not put my, nobody's paying me to worry about this right now.
Right.
See, but like my work, like I could be working right now. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like I'm salaried and I have a never ending to-do list. And frankly, probably 4 or 5 things at the top of it are kind of important, to the organization. And just Kerry, I'm the director of IT for the hospital in Syracuse.
Okay.
So like, there's security things. There's just this never ending list. And if I get spun out about it, I become really ineffective.
Yeah.
I become paralyzed, and like, that's a really bad. So that's kind of what, like, part of what I look at as my job is to make, it's like the whole, when you're in the airplane, the oxygen mask comes down, you got to take care of yourself. We had this leadership retreat on Friday, which was time well spent. So normally that thought kind of makes me want to puke in my mouth a little bit, but it was really good. And that's one of the things that we talked about is like, if I am projecting stress from my office, like, how does that affect the people that report to me? It's not great. And I really had to pull back, like, oh my God, I'm guilty of this. Because the last, year has been really hard. And I really had this idea that like around fall that I'd kind of get some time to refocus and have some space to really kind of reprioritize. And that has not happened. There've been some security things and just like, it's been just the hits just keep coming.
Right.
I've let that get to me. I have let that get to me. And so I've really had to pause just like 2 days ago to be like, okay, all right, we've gotten way off track here. Like the stress is real, like it's real, and the problems are real, and the work that needs to be done is real. But the way that I've been responding to it has not been super helpful.
And if you're in leadership, that is part of your salary, is dealing with that stress and making sure that you're taking care of yourself so you can be the one to make those decisions and to help everybody else through it and all of that good stuff, and that should be listed in a job description.
Yeah, I think you're right. I'm very fortunate to work for an organization that sees that. Like we actually spend intentional time talking about this stuff, which is cool. Like it's the first time I've never worked someplace where like, no, really, where we have coaching about that and talk about it and value people's mental space. Like that's amazing.
Those questions in an interview instead of like, how will you, I mean, like kind of what it sounds like sometimes, like, how are you willing to abuse yourself for this job?
Right.
Pretty much.
But the real good question is, how do you take care of yourself that has nothing to do with work? Like, how, are you okay away from what you identify as your job?
Right. Yes.
I used to work at a place. My coworker and I were joking, like we were writing a job description or an ad for our work. It was like the headline was like, "Do you have low self-esteem? Do you come from a dysfunctional family? If so, have we got a job?
This is the place for you."
That's right. Yeah. Like one.
So we didn't really cover this, Kerry. What do you do? What is it that you say you do here?
I'm the general manager of KZUM, which is nonprofit community radio here in Lincoln, Nebraska.
That's awesome.
We're going to have our 44th birthday next month.
Oh my gosh.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Happy birthday, KZUM.
Heck yeah.
So how did that happen?
Well, okay. Here's the long and the short of that. I've always been a KZUM fan. Even back in college, I loved KZUM. There was a show called Dance Bands, or no, not Dance Bands anymore. That's one that's currently on. Dave's Closet. And it's a jazz show. And I used to work at a novel idea bookstore downtown and not really take home a paycheck, just take home books and books. That's the way it goes.
That's not a bad way to get paid.
Right? I know. So one of the hosts of Dave's Closet used to come in and bring us CDs to listen to. He also cleaned O'Rourke's during the day. He was this sweet older gentleman named Dave Hoffman, who also had a pretty noticeable speech impediment. And he was on the radio every week. And I thought that was so cool that there was a space for him to be able to be there and speak freely and play music that he loved. And all these CDs he would bring in just were amazing and beautiful jazz vocalists and all the big bands and all that good stuff. So I'd listen to them when I was there. So that started kind of my love for KZUM, moved away, came back working in mortgage. Somehow I got roped into working in finance. I don't know how that happened, but because I hate math, but I guess that's just a part of me now. And so I'd been working in the financial mortgage, all of that stuff for about 11 years. And the job for KZUM general manager came up. And I just said to myself, like, I kind of thought I was going to be doing this for the rest of my life because it's steady and it has health insurance and all that good stuff, but I don't really want to do it anymore. Like, this isn't me. What am I doing with my life? Like, kind of an early midlife, switch, not crisis, a switch. And so I went for the job and I got it. And I think that one of the reasons that I did get it was because of my financial background, so that sort of helped me into this place that I'm in now. And the really cool thing about it too, is that before I moved back, Dave Hoffman passed away, or he must have passed away like right when I was moving back. And I never got to reconnect with him, which was sad. But then I started working at KZUM and I noticed all of these CDs there that had a piece of tape on them that said DH on them. And I'm like, what are these? And he donated all of his music back to the radio station. So I have my own jazz show now. I've had it for almost 6 years. It's called The Hot House. It's on Monday afternoons. And I get to play all of that music that he used to lend me to listen to. That really started my KZUM journey and even my love for jazz too. So it's so full circle for me. It's just amazing to be in that space and know that there's 44 years of people who have been volunteering their time to make that place work. And then all of these donors throughout that time too, that have been donating their hard-earned money to make it work too. So it's a community effort, and it's just a wonderful place to be a part of.
How does a community radio station stay alive for 44 years? Like, what do you, as the general manager now, as you look back from its inception to now, and you're kind of leading the charge, like, how does it not go under? How does it stay alive?
I would say relevancy. That word is huge. When you talk about community media, you have to be relevant to your community. You have to reflect your community. You have to be open to your community. People have to create, or I guess you have to have people create content for themselves and for their listeners that they can relate to. And I think that that's probably the biggest reason that KZUM is still around. I mean, people have said over and over, like, radio's dead, nobody listens to the radio anymore, this and that. But we have people who, call us or send in letters and say, I'm a shut-in. This is how I listen to my neighbors, or we had a lady early on in the pandemic who lost 2 sons from COVID, and she donated a huge amount of money to us, probably more than her means, because she got through that by listening to the radio, listening to KZUM and the people that she knows and talking about the community. And so that's a huge reason that we're able to get through. Also, we've had a string of general managers and people who have worked at the station who have done everything from sell hot dogs out in front of Ideal, to raise money, to grant writing, to all of that, all of those pieces that you need to raise money for a nonprofit. And you have to have people in the organization who are bold and are willing to take on those zany, weird ideas. There's, and the nice thing about KZUM too is that we don't have like a corporate overlord or leadership, printing out playlists for us, telling us that we have to play, or telling us how we need to raise our money, or, what we need to do. We can be creative from January 1st to December 31st and how we do all of these things. And that is such a joy to be. And it's scary kind of too, because if you do one of those zany, weird ideas and it fails, especially if you love something so much, you're just like, oh my God, I ruined everything. But you didn't. It's all about that perspective. But I think that, if I have to really just have one word that encapsulates what KZUM is, it's relevant. And it's always going to be relevant if we have that community focus as the forefront of our mission,
Well, whether the community knows it or not, they need KZUM. We need KZUM.
Mm-hmm.
I always kind of envision KZUM as, not exactly a pirate ship, but truly independent, when the vast media landscape is, pretty clear channel centered or whatever,
right.
To have this pirate ship bringing in substance.
Yeah.
Bringing in things that actually matter. And not everybody wants to listen to that, and that's fine.
Sure.
But that's always been my, I'm from Lincoln, and then my family moved away, and then I moved back in 1994, and I was not in great shape. But I had spent the last few years following or running around with the Grateful Dead and that situation. And I came back to Lincoln to kind of get my act back together. And, but I was sad, and I was grieving a certain like that music basically. And I didn't really know, I didn't know a whole lot of people or whatever, but I was over at my best friend's parents' house, and I was walking through their kitchen, and I heard Grateful Dead music. And I don't mean like Casey Jones. I mean like weird music coming out of their television. And I'm like, okay, am I having a flashback? Like, what is happening here? This is so strange because they were not down. You know what I'm saying? But it was this weird moment where this wormhole opened up, and the thing that I was really missing was coming at me at a time when like I was just missing it. And how is this even happening? Well, it was on Channel 10 on cable. And it was KZU was the Grateful Dead Hour, David Gann's show. And that was how I found out about KZUM. So like, that's just always been really important to me. And as I'm sitting here saying this, it hit me when we were talking to him, like, I haven't given KZUM any money in a long time.
Well, we have a fund drive coming up next month.
Well, bad listener. So I signed on. I've kicked a few bucks into the KZUM account so I could have something resembling a clear conscience as we're talking.
I love it.
But I mean, like, that's but yeah, I mean that. But I'm glad that we're having this conversation because it really has made me think back, like, oh, like, because I'm guilty. Like, I listen to a lot of podcasts. You know, I'm like, I commute to Syracuse every day. I have a lot of windshield time. And I've really kind of gotten away from KZUM just because I've gotten distracted by other things, you know?
Sure. Well, and that's the name of the game right now. There's so much coming at you from every which way, especially online. And that's one thing that
Kerry,
we really,
there are men that have podcasts.
I know.
It's really scary.
Well, we have, and that's one thing that we've been working on a lot over the last couple of years is just making sure that we have on-demand listening, which we do. We have archives of all of our music programs that go back only 2 weeks because that's what we can do for music rights, you know, but we have podcasts of all of our talk programming and original podcasts. And we do have a lot of wonderful community partnerships with people who are already creating podcasts that we help that we host on our website also to help get that extra content out there. And so that's been a huge focus of ours right now. One thing that I'm so excited that we're doing is we're hiring for a full-time news journalist to just focus on community Lincoln media.
Oh my gosh.
It's going to be awesome. I have to find the right person and I know I'm going to, but I can't wait. Right now, I think anybody would not argue that there's an assault on media. And when I'm talking about media, what people initially think of is they think of commentators, like those talking heads that you have on TV.
Yeah.
No matter what side of the spectrum that you're on, you have people who are taking news stories and telling you like their spin on it, which is fine and dandy if that's what you want to listen to. But it's really hard to disseminate and get and figure out what information you're supposed to be taking in. And I feel like it's this huge bubble that it's really burst in the last year, especially, or 2 years.
I've been watching the Journal-Star building get torn down. I worked there for a brief period of time. Oh gosh, it's been 7-8 years. I worked there like 3 years in the IT department, not in the editorial side or, you know, the writing side, but I met all those people. If they had a computer, I talked to them, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yep.
And that was really like the Craigslist thing was really starting to hit hard. And I just watched in real time local journalism get gutted. And it's really, really sad. Like it's one of those, you don't know what you've got till it's gone. And I don't think people understand. I had a really nice talk with, Gordon Winters. He was at the J-Star for many, many years, decades. And he, it's just one of those things I never talked about. Like when he was like, if you wanted to know what was for school lunch, you looked at the newspaper. If you wanted to know what the weather was, you looked at the newspaper. If you wanted to know what was going on in your community, you looked at the newspaper. And that's all kind of just gotten, and maybe that's the way it's supposed to be. I don't know. I'm not, trying to bemoan that, but that's the thing I'm so pleased to hear you say that, because that's the thing that, I mean, out of chaos and disorder comes new order, right?
Right.
That old institutional local journalism just gets destroyed. Something is going to come up to buttress that and to renew it.
Well, the bubble, I would say, has burst. And I think that people are really looking for some someone they can trust. And when you talk about, like when we talk about relevancy, the news has such a huge portion of that, because Lincolnites and people here, I think, really want to understand what's going on in their community and how they can help and how they can participate. And you can't get that in a huge conglomerate piece of information coming out at you. Like,
especially that has kind of an agenda.
Right. And so I think about things like, you know, a couple months ago when they were talking about redistricting.
Yeah.
Well, why was that important? Who in Lincoln is that going to affect? And why should I or should I not vote for those things? None of that was being talked about. I can't think of anybody that was talking about that. And I'm here to tell you that we're on a good path, because in my, my colleagues, when we're all talking about community media across the United States, these small community organizations, small community radio stations are hiring weekly. I see journalists, people looking for journalists, people creating news departments, you know, and there's so much support from places like the Corporation for Public Broadcasting and all of these different entities that are really supporting these small community organizations to create newsrooms so people in their communities can become more active, informed, and really participate in not only their communities, but in democracy. Because I really do feel that the reason that democracy works is because of free press. And I am going to be a part of that. I'm going to make sure that Lincoln is a part of that. And I'm so thankful that I can be a part of a 44-year legacy that can take all of this amazing music and all of this wonderful community activism that we've helped, and then build on top of that to create something that's going to get our community and all of the new Americans, new people in our community, and the people who've been here a long time, get us all further. So
I got choked up when you were saying that, Kerry, because I mean, for the last 5 years, the conversation around our political sphere has been absolutely bonkers.
It's been bonkers. You're right.
And a mantra that has arose from that has really kept me from going off the freaking deep end has been all politics are local. All politics are local. I mean, we get sidetracked by the reality show that is the larger votes, and those are very important for sure.
Yeah.
But those aren't important if the local ones are not important. You know what I mean? Like that shit doesn't matter unless it matters around here. And I think that's really cool that because there's a space or a vacuum a little bit that community radio can hey, we have some autonomy here and we can kind of try to be as central and as fact-based as we can. And sure, you're going to get people that are offended by the facts or
sure,
but that's cool.
Well, and we've been working a few years ago, KZUM was part of a 10-station cohort throughout the country. And this is where I'm saying the CPBs really come in and besides the fact that they're a great leadership organization, but a couple of years ago, they worked with the National Federation for Community Broadcasters, which I'm actually on their board now. Those two entities came together and said, okay, well, let's do this. Let's pick out a couple stations in the country that are working on community engagement as part of their programming, and help them build capacity to do that and more. And so KZUM was chosen as one of these 10 stations, and we were working with really small communities like Marfa, Texas, Point Reyes, California, even Durham, North Carolina. So it was a really wonderful refocus for me as a organizational leader, as a community media person, to have all of these different perspectives from all over the country and then be inspired what people are doing in their communities that are as big as Lincoln or even smaller, and it gave me a lot of wonderful ideas. It gave me a lot of wonderful colleagues that I bounce ideas off of all the time. Because when it comes down to it, there's not a whole lot of organizations around me, even regionally, that are like KZUM. And so it's wonderful to have a close group of people that I can refer to when I'm thinking about outside of the box. Like, is this weird? Or have you tried this? Or I'm so frustrated because this isn't working. And it's a wonderful, wonderful group of people. And we're still working together quite a bit. So anyway, the reason that I brought that up is because at that point, that was in 2018, that's when we started to really focus on how can we build capacity in our organization to make something like this work. And we've been able to get some grant funding for this position, which is great. So that'll last us a couple years. And then throughout the process, when we're creating this programming, using that to kind of show the track record to get more funding. So I think it's going to be really great. And that's the stuff I think about when I come home on Friday night and I turn off my light and I'm sitting in my library. I'm like, okay, let's remember all of the things that I'm so excited to do and brush off the whatever I had to deal with this week, Yeah,
so. that's like good practice, right? To like keeping the main thing and letting go of the stuff that isn't necessary, totally. Like the worry, the fear, the conflict you have with a colleague, like that stuff is going to dissolve, but what's the main thing? And then be able to be at home with your family.
Yes.
And like, you know what I mean? And like do that and be there because it's that makes you that personality at work that people enjoy,
Right.
Yeah. We're getting close to the end, but I always kind of do some questions that we're going to get to, but I think, let's say of our dozens of listeners here in the dozens, we're talking dozens, Kerry.
We're kind of a big deal.
What are some things that KZUM, what are some shows, programs, things that people, that what the work that y'all are doing that the average person in Lincoln may be surprised to hear? They're like, they didn't know that was for them.
Sure. So, one thing that I'm really proud of is obviously our music programming.
Yeah.
We focus a lot on independent and local music. So throughout the day, you're going to hear a lot of local artists, which I think is really, really cool. And we have great blocks of music that lend itself to whatever you're doing on any given day. For example, on Friday nights, we have a great kind of Americana, country swing, Western swing, rockabilly lineup. And so it's super fun. But then on Saturdays, we have independent DJs who bring in all of this great music, and we have hip hop until 4 a.m, which is really fun. So just like how we've created these sort of like blocks of music that include so many independent artists, I think is amazing. And we have the best volunteers ever. Some of the other things that we're doing are, like I said, partnering with community organizations to create content. So we have some great programming in Spanish, including a podcast. These ladies that are doing this podcast, it's called 402 on Espanol. They're awesome. They're people who are new to America, new to Lincoln, and their podcast is centered around navigating this community as a parent with a family and not necessarily being able to speak the language the best at first. So like one of their stories that they tell, it's so great. It's about how to navigate a blizzard when you've never experienced it before.
Wow.
I mean, come on. Yeah. Obviously, I've never had that perspective, so I never would have even thought that there's so many people who live in this community, and probably for the first time, who would have no idea how to navigate an intense amount of snow or weather. So
it's beautiful. That's like practical. I mean, that's beautiful. It's awesome.
So that's a really cool program.
That's so great.
Yeah.
So what are you listening to these days, Kerry?
As far as music goes?
Yeah. Yeah. Or anything really.
Podcasts, books, whatever.
Sure. So I read a lot. And I listen to podcasts. I don't listen to a lot of national ones. I tend to just focus on ours so I can kind of pick them apart in my own brain and stuff like that. But I also listen to a lot of, since I have my jazz show, I listen to tons of jazz for that.
What kind of jazz?
Well, my show is centered around early and traditional jazz. So basically everything from the early 20s, I feel like 1960.
Okay.
I love Louis Armstrong, Louis Armstrong and Billie Holiday and all that good stuff. I know.
So good.
You have to hold your heart a little bit when you
do it. Yeah, it really does. Man.
I read a lot. I listen to a lot of soul music, 60s and 70s soul.
Love it.
And my favorite new artist right now I've been listening to a lot of is Ray Zaragoza. I don't know if you know her. She's this beautiful singer-songwriter who writes these, and she's indigenous. And so a lot of her themes are about the earth and the land and just being centered and all of that wonderful. Her voice is incredible. So check her out for
Rhea Zaragoza.
Ray, Raye. Zaragoza, Zaragoza, I believe. Okay. So yeah.
I love getting to hear about new artists I have no idea about. So that's so cool. Thanks for sharing that.
Oh my gosh, she's great.
You mentioned earlier something about a fund drive. When does that kick off for KZUM? Is that coming up?
Yeah, thanks for asking. So February 10th is when it starts. We always have a fund drive around our birthday to celebrate our birthday. And that's simply, going to our website or calling us up on the phone and making donations. We do 3 of those a year. We'll have a new t-shirt and all of that good stuff for thank you gifts. And usually we raise anywhere between $30,000 and $40,000 during this one. So it's a big one because we haven't had a fund drive in 5 months. Wow. So it's a good one to kind of bring our bank back up.
Yeah,
sure.
Yeah. So
what's the goal?
$40,000. Mm-hmm.
What if it was 44?
It would be amazing if it was 44. Yeah. We can up that as much as we want.
That's right.
Where is KZUM located right now? Where do you broadcast out of? Is it still the terminal building?
No, our antenna and our transmitter are still in the terminal building, but we are located on 48th and Calvert.
Oh, sure. Okay.
At the very top of Peanut Hill.
Peanut Hill.
I didn't know that was a thing.
Yep. It's a thing.
All right.
Apparently, I guess it used to be a big peanut farm. Yeah.
Okay.
Nice. Kerry, I just am. I mean, I feel like you are you and Mike both, but getting to hear what you're doing with KZUM and your attitude about this community, we are eternally grateful to have your energy and your perspective and your heart and soul a part of our community. So thank you. And not just for being on our goofy podcast, but just thank you for the energy you give to this community. And thank you
as a Lincoln resident, that's really important, and keep up the good work for sure.
Oh, thanks. I made the joke earlier that I was kind of kicking and screaming coming back here from a place that I thought I was going to live forever for the rest of my life. And I see my kids flourishing, and I love my life that I've made here and my friends. And I really feel rooted in what's happening here and being able to, hopefully make a difference in the way that the community functions after I'm no longer in it would mean everything. And I hope, and it's kind of like when you're in the bathroom and you try to pick up the bathroom before you leave to leave it better than it was when you got there. It's kind of the same thing where I would love to be able to make a mark that allows for people or helps people to be better or just feel better here. So that's kind of,
you're on the right track.
I think that's happening.
Yeah, for real.
Yeah. So thanks for that. And thanks for your time this morning. I know
Yeah.
we're all getting very precious about our weekends, and I really appreciate you being willing to do this. And it's really great to connect with you on this level, Kerry. And, it's just a lot. There's something to be said for that idea of letting go what isn't serving you to grow towards something that will. And you are a prime example of that. So thanks for sharing that story with us. We appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thanks so much, you guys. I appreciate you putting the good out there.
Trying.
Well, when we bring people like you on, it's much better because Steve and I it's a fucking echo chamber where we just complain round and round. So
whatever. You guys are awesome.
I do. I mean, Kirsten kept, because I mentioned your name a while ago. I'm like, she's like, you got to get Kerry on. You got to get Kerry on. So I got to get out of my head too. So yeah, I'm glad that you're able to be here and brighten the room a little bit.
Thanks, Kerry.
Thank you so much, Kerry.
Guys. Thank you so much.
Don't forget, toot your hooter.